Hi, and welcome to your tutorial, Photoshop Techniques, the Power of Layer Masking. Layer masking is a vital skill every graphic designer should have. It's my hope that after learning along with this tutorial, you will understand why. Before you begin the tutorial, you will need access to Adobe Photoshop. Check your Applications folder, or if you do not have Photoshop on your computer, you can download the product as a free 30-day trial by following this link. You'll also need a pencil and eraser and some scrap paper to participate in the knowledge check. An anonymous wise person once said, "Nothing worth doing in life should be done without layer masks." I'm not sure if that can really hold up in all cases, but after you see what layer masks can do, you'll wonder how you ever created anything in Photoshop without them. Lesson objectives. At the end of this lesson, the learner will be able to define what a layer mask is and does, recognize when to use a layer mask, contrast the benefits of using a layer mask versus using the opacity change and eraser tool options, recall the steps needed to create a successful layer mask, and finally create a successful layer mask on his or her own. Here's the list of topics we will cover in this tutorial. What is a layer mask? Why use a layer mask? When to use a layer mask? And how layer masks work. Then you'll do a knowledge check. In the second part of the tutorial, we'll look at the limits of opacity change and the eraser tool. We'll learn the steps to create a layer mask. We'll look at some final results and follow up with another knowledge check. Then there's a brief summary, and then it'll be your turn to try. Now we're finally ready to get started. First, here are the Photoshop tools you'll be using to create a layer mask with two images. You're going to use the Move tool, which looks like these perpendicular arrows. We're going to use the Paintbrush tool, which looks like a little paintbrush, and the Eraser tool, which looks like a regular eraser. The color palette will also come in handy. And that's all. So you're probably wondering what a layer mask is. Well, what does a mask do when you wear it? It hides a portion of your face, as the Phantom is demonstrating here. Now I want you to replace the word mask in your mind with the word transparency. A layer mask is something you apply to a layer that allows you to control the transparency of specific parts of that layer. In other words, it's a non-destructive way to blend images together. So why should you use a layer mask? They offer you more control and options. They are non-destructive, meaning image data is not destroyed. And hate the highlighting tool? Use a layer mask instead. Say you need to go back and alter your image for a capricious client. All your data is still there because you didn't erase anything. You merely hid it from view. You saved yourself the time and stress of starting a project over. Professionals use layer masks. They are a more advanced technique and take your work to the next level. So when might you want to use a layer mask? What conditions will you notice? Use a layer mask when you want to blend a portion of one image onto another in a non-destructive way. There's no hard and fast rules here, though. Once you know how to use them, you'll only be limited by your creativity. I created this image from two pictures I took. The couple who were married in Maine in June 2014 is one image, and the background came from a photo I took in October 2016. By using a layer mask, I was able to enhance the perfect moment with a scene worthy of it. So here you can see the background image. And here you can see the original image of the couple. And using Photoshop, I was able to seamlessly blend it to make it look like one image that you see here. I know when you are new to Adobe, trying to master even basic techniques can be very overwhelming. So I'm sure you're wondering, are layer masks easy to use? Yes, they are. If you can use the Paintbrush tool, you can create a layer mask. I created this image from two others as well, the blue bush and the tree, are from one image, and the children and this lighter bluish-green bush are from the second image. Using a layer mask, I was able to make it look like one seamless image. So you're probably thinking, well, I know how to use a highlighter and maybe an eraser, maybe an opacity change to blend images, but how do layer masks work? This visual will help. Remember how I said a real mask hides a portion of your face? The mask part of your layer mask is created with the color black from the paintbrush tool. By painting with black on a mask layer, you hide 100% of your image. Black tells the program to turn your image 100% transparent in that spot, so you can see the layer underneath. Transparency is indicated by this checkerboard pattern. White, on the other hand, that tells the program to make that part of your image 0% transparent or completely opaque or completely visible. The darker the shade of gray, the closer it is to black, the more transparent your image will become. And the closer the gray color is to white, the more opaque the image becomes. For example, if this was a real mask layer applied to the top of this image of U-Haul, this would be the result. The image is completely hidden where there is black, and completely visible where there was white, and only 50% visible where there's the 50% shade of gray. The shade of gray that's closer to white leaves more of the image in place. Now it's time for a brief knowledge check to assess your understanding of layer masks thus far. You will be presented with 3 multiple choice questions. Please pause your tutorial on the question screen. Use your pencil and scrap paper to make your choice, then play the tutorial again to see if you're right. Explanatory feedback will be provided to you. Good luck. Now it's time for a live demo to see how layer masks work in action. To do this demo, I will be using this image of the city of Cleveland that I turned black and white, and this image of LeBron James to create one blended image. So you may be wondering, what's wrong with an opacity change? Wouldn't it be so much easier to do that? Not necessarily. Opacity change alters the opacity of the entire layer. So you can't apply an opacity change to just a part of the layer. As you can see, I've layered the image of LeBron over the city. I clicked the caret by the opacity option in the layers panel and changed it from 100% completely visible to 50%. Let's see what happened. As you can see, an opacity change made the whole image of LeBron half visible. But I want LeBron 100% visible. Let's try something else. I know, the eraser tool. I can set the eraser tool to have a blended tip and just erase the background, and the player will not only stay visible, but blend in. Perfect. Who needs to learn about layer masks? Well, you do. Although this looks great on digital paper, you have a problem. Everything you have erased has been destroyed. After you close this image and reopen it, you can't undo the eraser. These checks of death mean you have destroyed part of your image. See? Data has been permanently deleted from this layer. This can be a problem if your teacher or client suggests you bring back a bit more of the ball, perhaps, because it's too transparent. And if maybe you could bring in some of the crowd and make that still visible and fade it into the city, that would be perfect. Well, now you have to start all over. This time, let's use a layer mask. Here are 4 simple steps to follow to create a layer mask. Step 1, use the Move tool to create 2 layers. Step 2, click the Create Mask icon. Step 3, select the Layer Mask layer by clicking on it. Step 4, use the Paintbrush tool, colors black, white, and gray, to change transparency. Now I'll demo each step for you in real time. Step 1, make layers. Use the Move tool to create 2 layers. So as you can see, if I arrange these vertically, and I use the Move tool, I can click on this layer of the player and drag it over to the city. Then I'll close out of that. Now I'm going to hold Option and Shift and resize this a little bit. Place in here and hit Return. I have a background layer, which I just double click to unlock, and I called it Layer 0, and then Layer 1, the basketball player. So as you can see, this is what the image looks like now, with the basketball player layer on top of the city. You can't see the city because Layer 1 is completely opaque. Step 2, click the Layer Mask icon. It's at the bottom of your layer panel and looks like a white rectangle with a gray circle in it. After you click the Layer Mask icon, you will see a link followed by a white rectangle appear next to your layer. But as you can see, if I do that, I get the link and the white rectangle. Nothing's really changed to our image. Step 3, select Layer Mask layer. To change our image, we need to select the Layer Mask layer by clicking on it. You know the layer mask is selected because it will have a frame around it. See the frame corners here? It's important to make sure you have the layer mask selected or you will alter your image, not the mask applied to it. So in our example here, we just click the Layer Mask button. You'll see a link followed by a layer next to it with a white rectangle. That's your layer mask. As you can see, it didn't change the image yet. Step 4. Now that your layer mask is highlighted, select the Paintbrush tool. Choose black if you want to hide part of your image, and white to reveal it again. Gray will vary the transparency depending on the shade. Let's see this in action. First, I'm going to show you a common error. If you don't have your layer mask selected, and then use the Paintbrush tool, and say we grab black, make sure that's black, and we start to paint on our image, you will see that your image is not having a blending effect. It is being covered in black because you're using the Paintbrush tool to paint black on your layer. So we'll undo that. If you click on the layer mask though, you'll see when I use black and set this to black, black hides the layer because you're putting a mask over it. It's just like wearing a Halloween mask to cover your face, except this is a black mask that's hiding your image. So you can see the second layer showing through the city. Now, you will also notice a change as I do this. Look at the layers panel. Everywhere I've painted black here is showing up on the layer mask. See the black down there? It's not on my image. If you notice, no data has been erased here, like when we use the eraser tool. So we can continue doing this. If we make a mistake and erase too much of our image, we'll just bring it back with white. So let's choose white. And we can bring that back. No data has been erased from our layer. It's all still there. We're just hiding and revealing using black and white. If we use gray, we'll see the crowd start to fade away. So that's about maybe a 50% shade of gray. So only half of that is going to be visible. We're making the layer transparent in this area where we're painting gray. And so if I zoom in and use different size brushes, I can get that very, very exact. And I'll show you the final result of this in a moment. But if you see, look here, so you can see the white, the black, and the gray areas on the mask. all the data for the original layer is still there, and then you can see the effects here. So if you go back to our example, we can see the final result of using a layer mask. Nice, right? But maybe the client feels it still needs something. So you can add another layer mask. But part of being a professional artist is to know when to stop. Don't get carried away. Layer masks can be addicting. There, that's better. You can see how the lightning storm blends into the city, which blends into the crowd. There's a fireball layer applied to the ball, as well as some flames below the player. LeBron's opaque. Several images and masks were used, as you can see in the layers panel. So if I bring up the Photoshop file of the image I just showed you, you can look here in my layers panel and see how many layers I used and how many masks. So I have the background layer, and then each layer I applied to it has a corresponding mask. So you can use as many layers and masks as you want. You're only limited by your own creativity and imagination. Now it's time for your final knowledge check. You will see 3 more multiple choice questions. Pause to read each question, make your selection on your paper, play the tutorial again to check your answers. Feedback will be provided to you. Good luck. Congratulations! You've now completed your Photoshop layer mask tutorial. In this lesson, you have learned what a layer mask is and does, how to recognize when you may want to use a layer mask, the limits of the opacity change in the eraser tool to blend images together. You've also learned the steps to create a layer mask, and that making layer masks is simple, yet effective and fun. Now it's your turn. Open Adobe Photoshop from your Applications folder. Open 2 images in Photoshop that you would like to blend together. Create a seamless blended effect by following the steps in this tutorial to create a non-destructive layer mask. Can you add a second layer mask? A third? Thank you, and happy creating.